Hello, welcome to the show. You have made it all the way to WitchLab Wednesday Live. Today is May 11th, 2022. Almost said 2002. Almost lost us 20 years there. No, it's 2022. Today, I'm your host, Tiffany Boggins. Welcome. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us. Today's guest is going to be the legend, the keeper of the spells. Judika Illes will be with us later. We're going to be talking about the book she just released, Pure Magic, and the class that she's teaching this weekend. So stay tuned for all of that. Let's see. All right. Just making sure that everything is up and running correctly and that I haven't started this show like last show where I was blind for a second or two. Okay. All right. We're good. Technical things. Here we go. Yeah, so stuff that's coming up, interesting stuff, fun stuff. Guess what? The Dark Market, as you all know, is coming October 22nd and 23rd. And today I secured us the Amazing Giants. And if you don't know who Amazing Giants are, they're a local, they're a Columbus local entertainment troupe that do really, really fun stuff. They're going to make it to a very fun, festival-y environment. So stilt walkers and possibly accordion players. I don't know. We're going to fingers crossed, right? We'll see. But we're in talks now, and it's definite they're coming. So Christy, hello. Christina, hello. So it's I know that I dropped the ball on posting about tonight's show, so hopefully you guys will all just find it by scrolling through Facebook at this time. Things happen. Things get weird. Sorry about that. I apologize to Judika. I apologize to you guys. But don't worry. It's always taped. You can always watch it anytime you want. So don't worry about it. All right. Upcoming stuff. Monthly meetings for the Circle of the Dark Mother, our wonderful group that does the monthly informational, sometimes ritual, sometimes whatever. They are actually moving this month to the next one in June. They're going to be moving to the second Sunday of the month. And that is going to be a guided meditation, which is my favorite. Hold on. Let me turn off my phone dings and boops and bops. Mark Williams will be running that and leading that guided meditation. So that'll be beautiful. And you can find that event on the WitchLab Facebook page, just under our events. They're always free to attend. Hopefully soon they'll be back in person, but for now they're still online. WitchLab Book Club, the Cultum Librorum. They are almost always on the last Sunday of the month. That one is true this time too. This month's is Year of the Witch by Temperance Alden, and June's will be Intuitive Witchcraft by Estrella Taylor. So if you want to become part of the book club, it's easy to do. I'll post this, copy and paste. And this is the link that you click to join the book club. Again, free. And sometimes the authors show up. I know Amy Blackthorne showed up last month, and I believe we and Raven also showed up to one, and I know Mortellus did. But yeah, authors, they pop in sometimes to talk about their own book with you, which is really fun. There's more peoples. Hello, Susie, Al, Steve. How's it going, everybody? It's good to see you. That is book club this month. Tarot Tea Party, once again, is sold out. It's tomorrow, but once again, it's sold out. But next third, I believe they're always the third Thursday or second. It depends on what tomorrow is. If tomorrow's the second Thursday, I got a lot of things to remember. But next month's, regardless, is going to be the Fool's Journey, which is really, really heady, big stuff. So I'm interested to see how we're going to squeeze that into like an hour and a half, but maybe like a really quick, fast talking overview. That'll be fun. So so that's coming up. So again, tomorrow night's is sold out, but next month, look ahead. And monthly meditations. So this month, also strange. This is the month of strange things. Our monthly meditation this month is actually going to not happen because the staff we're doing a table at Hell City, which is our local tattoo convention. That's a big deal. And we're really excited to be there. But all of the staff is super busy. So we just can't do the meditation this month. But I'm making it up to all of you because next month we're going to do a special thing, which is a like specialized, elongated, like trance meditation, the same kind we did last month, but this time it will be focused. There won't be a Zoom thing. Everybody will be doing it, including me. I'm very excited. And the really exciting part is that we're not doing it at WitchLab. We're doing it at Perceptive Spirit, which is Spirit of Tiferet, the shop that's just 2 blocks down from WitchLab. They just opened their event space, which is Perspective Spirit. And they have, it's like a big, open, beautiful room. And we can fit lots of people and you can all lay down. It's going to be very wonderful and trancy and journey filled. So that's exciting. And I'm going to be writing up the post for that in the next week. So keep an eye on the Facebook page or the website, witchlab.com, and you'll see it updated in the events. Because there's only going to be 20 tickets because we want everybody to be comfortable and lay down and not be on top of each other. And yeah, it's a big space. It's beautiful. And you all get to see our friend's new event space, Perspective Spirit. It's on Mount Street. And they do a lot of classes too. A lot of people have asked me about kids classes. They actually do kids stuff there. So you can get in and kids can make stuff and learn something. And it's really wonderful. I think she told me they have as young as 4 years old and then, and lots, just, and older than that. And I guess like 12 maybe. I don't know. Hey, Jane, Donna. Hello, friends. Hello. Let's see. What else did I have to tell you? So that'll be, I believe it's June 18th, but yeah, that's the 3rd Saturday of June. So everything's getting kind of pushed to June. And except for this weekend, May 15th, Judika Illes, our guest tonight, is going to be teaching spellcasting. It's online. It's through here. I think there's a couple tickets left, so check it out. It's going to be fantastic. It's the 2nd class that she's doing for us, and the last one was wonderful. June 2nd through August 4th, Najah Lightfoot is going to be doing her online classes through WitchLab. It is a 5-class course, and it's basically every other Thursday through June, July, and the beginning of August. And it's fantastic. It's wonderful for just setting a foundation, finding your own practice, getting that ball rolling. If you're looking for like, how do I get started? How do I get back into it? This is it. Like, this is a good like push towards like the class that she taught for us, just lighting the fucking candle. So beautiful. June 22nd, Melissa Madara of Catland in New York City will be giving a talk on the Witch's Feast, a history of kitchen witchcraft. Right. Sorry, I'm reading and thinking at the same time, and that never works out real well. So I was trying to think. So she's giving a talk, and it's the Witch's Feast, history of kitchen witchcraft. But she also wrote a book, which I stupidly didn't put that in my notes, what her book is called, but it just came out, and it is about kitchen witchery, and it's a cookbook, and it's wonderful. So she's going to be talking about that book and then about just general history of kitchen witchcraft, which wonderful. And then August 24th, Matt Oren will be joining us here to talk about his new book, Mastering Magic. And that's going to be very exciting. So yeah, that's what we got going on. Let me check comments. What do you guys got going on? Nothing. You just listen to me babble along. Here you go. Good. All right. I have your attention. Okay. Folks, I'd like to get our guest out here. She is a legend in our field. She is the woman who gave us 5,000 spells. She is the woman who continues to be a book midwife at Wiser, where she helps publish and bring beautiful books into the world. Whoop. That's one of my effects. Folks, my friends, allow me to introduce the wonderful Judika Illes. Welcome, my friend. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Oh, yes. I was trying to think of when you were here last. I know it was last year, but I don't remember when. Do you know when?
No.
Fair enough. I gotta turn
No.
my volume up. I can't hear you, and I'm afraid I'm. Oh, there we go.
Is that
There
better?
we go. There we go. That's better. That's better. Whew, now I feel like you're in the room. Hello, Stephen Intermill.
Hi.
Judika, Stephen Intermill is the director, curator of the
The
Buckland,
Buckland Museum.
Buckland Museum Witchcraft and Magic in Cleveland. And what was I going to ask you? Oh
Stephen and I know each other.
I know, and I was about to ask you something about them, and I spaced. So yeah, let's talk about Stephen and the Buckland Museum and how wonderful it is.
I have never been. Stephen and I met at Pantheacon in person. I think on more than one occasion. So we do know each other, but I have not yet had the privilege of going to the Buckland Museum. But I hope to one day soon.
It's wonderful, and he's sticking his tongue out at us. So.
I love a witchcraft museum. I have been to the museum in Cornwall. I have been to the museum in Switzerland, but I haven't been to any of the museums in the U.S.
So you've been to the Cornwall Museum?
Yeah.
Oh, the pictures are gorgeous.
Oh, it's amazing. I was there with the previous curator, with Graham King, just before he sold it, and it's an amazing place.
Stephen says, Judika, I'm coming through your neck of the woods on Sunday. I'll wave.
Okay. I'll wave back.
Just in general on Sunday, just wave out the window. Stephen.
Well, I'll be with you.
Oh, that's right. You will. You will be here. So you'll be at home, which is New York, yes? Yes. And so, but you'll also be here with us. So you'll be in many places at once on Sunday.
Yeah. Through the what's the coolest thing I learned at a witchcraft museum?
Good
Oh
question,
my God.
Brody.
The exhibit in Cornwall they had a lot of Cornish witchcraft, which I had not been familiar with, and that was really, really interesting. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Richel collection. It's this very enigmatic, mysterious art. There's a complete set of it at the Covenstead in Glastonbury, also, I believe, or was when I was there. And it's just, it's like the Voynich manuscript. It's fascinating. You're just like looking at it. And what does this mean? And it's great. It was really wonderful.
And what was that again that you saw? What is it?
Richel. That's the collection. It's named after the collection, after the collector.
So what is it? Like what's in it?
It's art, but they're talismanic. They're talismanic art. If you go on the Museum of, the last time I looked, they had some pieces of the reproductions in the gift shop, which I did bring some home. But there's a lot of it. It's a whole series, and it's just enigmatic. I don't know a better way to put it. Aesthetically, a lot of it is beautiful, but it's also mysterious. And sometimes you look at this esoteric or occult, it's a fine line between art and talisman, and it's just, you can just look at it forever.
I don't even know if there is a line. I got to tell you, like talismans are art. Every time you make one, you're like, look what I have done.
Yeah.
So yeah. I love a good talisman. Real. So it's the Richel collection?
Yeah, it's Dutch. So I think it's Richel. But I mean, I'm probably not pronouncing it right.
Oh. I'm just trying to look it up and see.
If you go to the museum website, they used to have a section on it. That's a great museum, though. It's just
I'll have to check that out.
It's the whole area. We took a day trip. I was staying in Glastonbury, and we drove down, and we stopped in Tintagel, which is very Arthurian. It's where Arthur's castle and Merlin, and every store has Arthurian stuff in it. And then we went down to Boscastle, which is where the museum is, and the whole thing is magical. The building is magical, and there's this huge library with all these witchcraft books, and that's incredible. The other museum I mentioned is the Hexen Museum in Switzerland.
Oh yeah,
which is also an amazing museum. It's just they have this Switzerland is one of the places with, unfortunately, one of the places with the worst witch trials. And so they have this huge archive, which is very fascinating and really,
Yeah.
really beautiful exhibits. I mean, so, they're far away. The Buckland is closer.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
I have access to one.
Yeah.
But I've seen about the Boz Castle one, the Cornish one, because Tony, also from the Buckland Museum, her and I have talked about going over there and actually visiting together, because I know that the two museums are actually maybe trading something, or there's a reason for a delivery to be made in some way, or a pickup. And so
Sure.
I just want to, like, ride those coattails and go over there and
The courier.
yeah. I will take or bring back whatever it is you need me to do.
That used to be like a job in the 80s. Like, I mean, that's how old I am. Back in the 80s, I was a travel consultant, and people would be couriers. Like, this is before there was so much email. You would get like a cheap flight and carry things to people.
Right, like important papers, or
Yeah. Yeah.
organs.
It's like another world. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's got to be a travel coordinator for that, right? Like the person who, like, gets that heart from there to
There were
there.
like agencies that would arrange it, because we would occasionally run the tickets. We would find like really cheap tickets because, of course, I mean, they should have been like flying them first class, but that's where they were saving the money.
We need to just get this liver over there and coach. No problem. Just get it over there.
We did a lot of papers. I have a feeling, I think hospitals arrange the organs, and I think that seating is better. I hope. Get the liver its own seat.
You would hope, unless it's like you just get them on any plane you can. So it's like
yeah,
some sort of like carrier plane, or like, one of those big transport things, and they're just like in the back holding onto the organ.
Yeah,
this is what I'm picturing. Okay, let's talk about your book. So, Pure Magic is currently out. Yes, I don't have a copy because we ordered them, but we didn't get them yet. So,
oh no.
It happens. It happens. But it's such a beautiful book. This cover is gorgeous.
No, they really did a beautiful, beautiful job with this. I don't know if people can see. And like there's a spine with like an eye on it, and it's, I mean, the woman who designed it doesn't know. I've had such good luck with my covers because I like, amulets in the form of body parts. I've got, an eye right here. And, way before, years before, the cover was designed. I always have hands and eyes someplace. But yeah, no, they did a wonderful job. It's a Weiser classic, so it has the acid-free paper, and it's beautiful. I mean, it was really, it was very much an honor to be included in that series. And it's sort of very funny for me because this is a new edition of the very first book I ever wrote.
Right.
And I never thought anybody would read it. I don't even spell my name correctly. I have an accent on the E in my name. Like if I sign my name, you'll see I have an accent. But my editor at the time told me, and it was an American publisher. She told me when she saw my name, she goes, "Oh, Americans are afraid of accents. You should get rid of it." And I didn't think anybody was going to read it. So I picked my battles, and I had other battles to fight with her. So I said, okay, whatever. But here we are, so many years later, and there's this new edition, and they let me read the audiobook, which was like an amazing experience.
You read the audiobook for your book? Yes.
Yeah.
That makes me
and they
so
almost
happy.
They almost never let authors read books.
Oh.
Yeah, it's available now, but it's like a private class, because I get to read it.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
cool.
It
was incredible. It was an incredible experience.
It's the reason that I don't listen to magic books on audio, because usually I know the author and the voice doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm like, I can't do this, because when I read it, I can hear that person speaking. But like, if I'm like reading Jason Mankey and it's like somebody, like, I don't know who else is talking, but it's not him. And I'm like,
and I hope this is a precursor to more, as an editor, that's what I do, because I know so many of the authors that I edit in person. I speak with them on the phone. It's like I want to hear their voice. When I edit Amy Blackthorne or I edit Star Cassis, I want to hear Harold Roth has got a new book
Oh,
coming out.
he's my
So,
favorite to listen to.
oh, Harold is amazing. And I mean, his new book will be out in a couple months. Um, The Magic of the Sword of Moses, a
Mhm.
grimoire. And I have to be able to hear, as I'm editing, that's how I know it's good, if I can hear them in my head.
Yeah, it's funny because when I read Witching Herbs the first time was before I'd ever heard him speak. And it was fine, but it didn't catch me. And then I took a class. It was like an online class from him,
Yeah.
and it was just
I take his classes too.
just just sitting, like just
Harold's a
watching
genius.
him. He's just like sitting in his armchair with his cats walking around, and he's talking to you about plants, and it's so lovely and so wonderful. And then I went back and read it
So
again,
real.
and it was him in his
Yeah.
chair with his cats talking
Yeah.
through this book. Fantastic.
Yeah. It's so authentic and real.
Yeah. Morgan Cornell, sorry. Morgan wants to know, what's your book about?
What's my book about? What's my
Let's
book
talk about
about? It is the class on Sunday is loosely based on the book. You don't need the book. It is a course in spell casting. It is a course with no dogma, the book. So it will take you through the spell casting process. I was offered the opportunity to write this book, and I thought that maybe I would never write another book again. I thought, oh, I have this opportunity, and maybe this is it. And so
What
I really,
what year did that first one come out? I'm sorry, I just wanted to get a time frame.
it was a long time coming out because it was originally supposed to be on Element Books, and Element went bankrupt in the middle. So, uh, yeah, it took a little longer. But the book was written. This book was written like my last years in Los Angeles, when I was living in Los Angeles,
Okay.
and I had an herb garden, and it was very much. It's a very personal book. It's probably the most personal out of all my books, and I actually did not plan to write an esoteric book. I thought there were so many of them out there. I had a big book of fertility, which has been incredibly fertile for me, but it has never been published for like a lot of technical reasons. But it ended up on a desk of a man, the VP at Element Books, and he rejected it. But every time I send that book out, which I guess I will again eventually, somebody offers me something else, and there was a chapter of magic spells in it, and he liked that chapter, and he liked the way I wrote, and I work with him to this day. So we had a connection, and he asked, would I write a book on magic spells and spell casting, and I said, yeah, I can do that. That was something that wasn't hard for me. It was a topic I knew well. My agent walked out on me because she thought she was going to have this big fertility book, and she didn't really want to do a spellcasting book. And so that was probably around 1999, 2000.
Okay.
And then it took a while to get published because Element went bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, HarperCollins ended up buying it and publishing my third book, which is Encyclopedia of 5,000 Spells, or as some know it, the Element Encyclopedia of 5,000 Spells, because of the publisher. What you got?
I got it. I got it right here.
Oh, you have the original.
Yeah,
you have the original edition.
With all of my stuff in it. Yeah.
Yes. That's the original. There's a new cover because they stopped publishing in the US for a while.
Yeah, we carry the new one in the shop. We always have it, and it sells constantly. It's a wonderful book. And it's funny because yours is the book that when somebody comes into the shop and they're like, I need help with something. And I'm like, okay, do you want to work with this or this or this or this? And they're like, if I want an oil, I want to do this. I'm like, okay, let's go to this. And then we'll, it's.
Well, that book was conceived by Greg Brandenburg, who I worked with on the Pure Magic book.
So this came out of that one chapter on spells from that.
You like that? He said, could you expand this? And I said, sure. And it is, I wanted to write because, I had read so many spellcasting books where if you're a beginner, you might not know, but if you're experienced and you read it, you can tell the author never cast that spell ever. It's it because it's like a cookbook where you
Right.
get a cookbook and there's a recipe and you reproduce it and it doesn't come out right, and you're mad at yourself because you think you didn't do it right. You couldn't. That recipe was not functional. And so I wanted to write a functional book to teach people how to cast spells or enhance your knowledge if you already know. And it is very, it will take you through working with plants, with crystals, with spirit work, basic spirit work, all the different sort of tools of the trade, and how to form alliances with them, how to work with them, and how to be an effective spellcaster without telling you what you have to believe, because that's your business. We are witches are a very, very diverse group, and we run the gamut of all kinds of spiritual beliefs, no spiritual beliefs, uh, all the political parties, as you know. We are all over the place, and so, but there are certain things that are common to effective spellcasting. And if it's like not getting lost in the details and keeping sort of hold of what makes a spell work. How can you make it more likely to work? What happens if it doesn't work? What does that mean? Because sometimes the spells that don't work are almost more interesting. When I teach a class, I tell people about the spells I did that didn't work because they're more
You learn.
educational. I mean,
You
I
learn
can
so
sit
much.
here and right. I mean, I can sit here and tell you about all the spells. Oh yeah, I did this and I did that and this worked and that worked. But that doesn't help anybody else. It's the spells that didn't work that where I learned a lesson. Those are the interesting
You
ones.
can weed those things out,
Yeah,
and then perfect and polish and change your recipe, right?
and
Done it.
see the areas where you need help,
Mhm.
or where you should cut yourself a break. Because some things are just going to be hard depending on your past experiences and who you are, and maybe your natal chart and all sorts of stuff. Some things will come naturally and
Mhm.
easily, and some things are hard.
Bailey has a good question. Can either of you briefly explain fertility in witchcraft? When I hear fertility, I only think of it in the context of persons who can get pregnant.
Well, it doesn't have to be in that context. I mean, that is how I started because I come from an infertility background. It was something that was a challenge for me, and I could see a book in my head, and I went looking for all the medical solutions I was given were like horrible, and this is not recent. This is going back to the late 80s because I'm old. So um, there might be better things now, but at that time they were not great. They were not effective for my particular situation. Um, and so I could see a book in my head. I knew that book existed. I went to bookstores, looked for it, asked salespeople. Book did not exist. And if you can see a book in your head, and this is for all the would-be writers out there, if you can see a book in your head, you should write it. And that's what I did. I could see the book in my head, and so I started to write it. And I
That is
kept
amazing advice. I'm going to write that down really quick because
no,
that's
it's
a
true.
fantastic quote.
I'm not the only one I think Toni Morrison said something similar too. I can literally see it. And when I speak to would-be authors as an editor, sometimes I can, as they're telling me about the book, sometimes I can see it. And then I
Mhm.
know, like, this is viable. We can do this. Once I can see it, then that's like the first thing. So even after I have two kids, and even after I had my kids, the topic just hooked me in and fascinated me, and it was really interesting. And I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. But as I said before, every time I sent that book out, I would get another project. Someone, my creativity It was, my creativity became fertile. People
Yeah.
would offer me stuff. Everybody turned that book down. They it 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 covers it is very much the prototype for 5,000 Spells, ironically. And the person who conceived 5,000 Spells saw that original manuscript, and it jumps from it is unified by the topic of fertility, but then goes into spiritual solutions and magical solutions and herbal solutions. And it made, where do you put it in a bookshelf? And that made booksellers nervous. So, well, I mean, look.
We have
I
whole
mean,
shelves now for books just like that.
yeah, but they don't, if you go into, I'm not talking about, there are some really great independent retailers, but a lot of bookstores, especially the big chains, a book goes in one place and it stays there.
Oh.
Like do you remember when the Harry Potter books were so popular?
Mhm.
They wouldn't put them on a shelf, on a table with, like, real magic books. And I'm sure people who love those books would probably love 5,000 Spells too, but they couldn't play together because one was fiction and one was, occult. So, it is for whatever you want to grow. Because what is fertility ultimately? But it's the creation of something new.
Mhm.
And so, whatever you would like to create that is brand new, you can use this for that. And all my books have some fertility spells in them because I've been Frankensteining that poor manuscript for years, the unpublished one.
So what's next after this?
What's next after this? I don't know. I
You
don't
don't have
know.
a
I
next
have
book in the works,
I have another book that came out in September, the Pure Magic book, and this is a
right?
perpetual calendar.
Daily
Um,
Magic.
yeah, daily. Oh God, see, I can't even keep daily magic,
It's
daily
okay.
magic. If I don't have a constant drip of caffeine, I am just the worst. And that's perpetual calendar of spells and rituals. I don't know what I'm going to do next. Honestly, I may put that. I may try that fertility book again. Um, I had a really busy couple years. I had some amazing opportunities in the last couple years. So, in addition to my own books, I got to contribute to the Taschen witchcraft book, The Library of Esoterica,
Oh
and
yeah.
that was an incredible experience. I love Taschen books, and I never thought I'd see my own work in there. So that was something. Um,
I've got to get on that.
oh, they're beautiful. They're so gorgeous.
I've had many Taschen books. I love them, but I don't
Yeah,
have
me
the
too.
witchcraft book, and I think I even have an account with Taschen. I could actually order it. I just need to do it.
There's an
Writing it down.
astrology
I'm
book.
writing it down.
There's an astrology, there's a tarot, and there's a witchcraft. And I think they're coming out with something new, but I don't know what that one is. But I'm sure it'll be gorgeous. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I love everything you do.
I'm always writing some forewords. I may try to. The fertility book would have to be updated. I would have to find some new spells, and you know, it's a
Oh,
new age. It's a new era. You have to. You have to.
Steven says the next one is herbalism. The next
Yes.
Taschen book.
Oh,
Yep. Yep. Do you
you
guys
do
carry
need
it?
it.
Steven, do you have Taschen books at Buckland's? I'm curious. Kate will be in soon. Kate missing, but out. Okay. What you talking about, buddy? What? And Sin says, hi, Judika. Oh, is the book around locally?
Yes. Which one? Pure Magic? Daily
Uh,
Magic?
they're
They
both
are.
out. They're both out and
They're both
places.
out. Yes.
We have daily magic, but and
Yes.
we have 5,000 spells. We have daily magic. We have magic for when you need it. We have simple magic.
That's
What's
not
that
mine.
one? It's another one it's the same size as the new version of this. Oh, Encyclopedia of Witchcraft. That's what it is.
I have an Encyclopedia of Witchcraft. I have an Encyclopedia of Spirits. I've got an Encyclopedia of Mystic Saints and Sages.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then
We had that. We've sold out of most of them, and I need to make orders. But yes. Oh my
yeah,
God, so many good ones.
yeah. I don't know what I'm going to do next. When I wrote Encyclopedia of Spirits, definitely.
So Steven says they used a couple of our
witchcraft
pictures
books.
in the Taschen book,
Yeah.
so he has to carry it.
You
That's
know,
so cool.
I don't know. When I wrote Encyclopedia of Spirits, they were nervous it would be too short, and I kept telling them it wouldn't be. But they
The
wanted,
fertility book would be too short?
no,
Oh,
Encyclopedia of Spirits.
oh, oh, oh,
I
oh, oh.
They were, "Can we have 5,000 spirits? Can we have 3,000 spirits?" And I did. I mean, they asked me for 3,000 and I wrote it. And then we had like a 14,000 page manuscript that you would have to sell with a red wagon, um, 'cause you couldn't get it home otherwise. And so then we cut out a lot of stuff, and I have like partially complete manuscripts of angels, of black madonnas, of all sorts of sacred beings. And so, maybe I will go back and revisit one of those mermaids. Uh, so
Oh.
I would like to publish the mermaid book.
Bailey wants to know if you sleep.
No, I literally don't. That's why I need the caffeine. I am a really I no. You will see me on Twitter at 4 a.m. because I cannot sleep.
Nicholas Sharp is a friend of our shop, and he's a wonderful human being. We've done a lot of work together. He says, I've had a book in my head for decades, but I'm scared to actually start writing it.
I understand.
You're
I
talking to the
understand that.
midwife of publishing. Talk.
But I actually do understand that, because it's scary to write a book, and authors are very brave people, because you are putting something out there that every Monday morning quarterback will feel qualified to judge. And it is a frightening thing. And I remember that when my first book, when I sent in when I sent in the final edition and was going to press, I, I, I was so, I don't know if depressed or overwrought, because I thought, oh no, I've exposed myself too much. And why was I so honest? I should have written one of those fake witchery books, because, maybe I would have protected myself a little bit more.
Right.
So I mean, you're not wrong. I understand why it's frightening, but I will quote John Lee Hooker, the great blues man: "If it is in you, it's got to come out." So if it's there, you need to do it. Just do it. Just do it. Don't even worry. If you are looking to publish it traditionally, I can tell you that Wiser Books, for a proposal, you do not need to have a finished book. We need 2 good chapters and a table of contents. I used to do a panel with my cohort at Llewellyn. We're friends at
Yeah.
Pantheacon. We did a pagan publishing panel every year, and I believe Llewellyn wants, if it is still as it was a couple years ago, they want 3 chapters. We want 2. But pretty much the same procedure. Most publishers are pretty much the same procedure. So if I don't know. My fertility book, I tinker with it to this day.
I need to take this toy away from her. I'll be right back.
I just tinker with it. Like the books that have been, I keep tinkering with things until they're published. And once they're published, I move on to something else. So there is something to be said for getting a contract, because otherwise you could spend the next 10 years working on one manuscript very easily. But just do it. The best writing advice I can give anyone is just do it. Don't think about it too much. Don't agonize about it too much. The best sentences you will ever have will be when you're driving and you can't write it down, or you wake up at like 2 in the morning and you have this great sentence, and maybe you even do write it down, but then by the time you wake up, you can't remember where it was supposed to go. It doesn't matter. Just do it, because it is so much easier to fix what is on the page. Don't worry if it's good. Just
Like
write
Nike.
it, because you can fix it. Once it's
Like Nike. Just do it.
yeah. Just when it is on the paper, you might look at it and go, "Oh my God, this is terrible." But then you'll start playing with it and fixing it and cutting and pasting, and you have outtakes, and you'll polish. If you're just agonizing in your head, it's just miserable. Says somebody who knows.
Do you ever do writing bookshops for beginning authors? Ray used to do one in rural Ohio way back when.
I haven't, but I would be happy to do one.
I think that'd be amazing.
I'd be happy to do. I mean, those are two things about me. They're two separate things. One is that I have had an interest and a fascination. I mean, I was bewitched by witchcraft from like the day I stepped out into the world. It is that is a constant interest for me. That is something, and I mean, and it was for my mother and my sister. It was something even if they weren't practitioners, it was an interest, and so that is one aspect of me. But the other aspect of me is that I can write, and that's like my skilled labor. Writing it, writing to me is very
I'm gonna
architectural.
put her out of the room really quick. Keep talking.
Writing, when you write, you're essentially building a book. It is like building a building, except you're doing it with words instead of bricks. And so there is an architectural aspect to it. So that's a whole other thing. A lot of authors, especially witchcraft authors and pagan authors, may or may not be skilled writers. That's not what they write. That's not what sells the book. So I wouldn't agonize too much about your skills as an author necessarily. I mean, it is good to know the craft of writing as well as the magical craft, but that's what editors are for. The thing the thing that is the thing that is irreplaceable is your knowledge, the content. That is what the things that are the things that can't nobody else, your book will always be your book. Like people will say to me, "Oh, somebody else is writing a spell book, somebody else is writing." They're writing their book. I'm writing my book. You can't we may all have a different take, and we should have more books, not less books. We don't want one party line. We want all the books. So if you have the knowledge, it's nice to share it. I'm not talking about secrets. That's a whole other thing. But if you have knowledge and you have things that will help other people, then writing the book, any publisher, I'm not talking about the publisher I work for, any publisher can help you with any good publisher can help you with the editing. That's, Wiser Books, like so many other, I mean, HarperCollins, who I work for also, there are several editing stages, and then there's a proofreader, and you get chances to make revisions. So it's not like you're writing a manuscript and it's going straight to the printer. That's not going to happen. There's once you're working with a publisher, there's always a little bit of a cooperative, collective approach, because you have assorted editors and production people and artists and the people who you are working with. And when I look at my books, I know which editors I worked with. I see my editors in my books, even though I wrote every word, but I feel their influence.
Interesting. I've never thought about that, but yeah, so yeah, like because they just have a way where they sort of molded part of your words.
This book, pure magic. So this book, I was given an editor, and she had the one who told me not to put an accent mark on my name. She had never read a witchcraft book before. She came from a background of diet and nutrition books. She didn't know. I was told to write it doesn't have to be a dumbed down beginner book, but an accessible beginner's book.
Sure.
But she didn't understand anything. And first I was angry, and I have a Taurus Mars, and that was like the red flag.
Oh
the
my
blood
God.
pressure went up, and how could they have given me this editor? She didn't know what a grimoire was. I mean, I was writing words that I thought most of my readers would recognize. She didn't know what any of them were.
Because your target audience isn't somebody who does fitness books or health books or whatever.
Right. And she didn't understand any of it. And first I was so angry. And then she had me, for people who don't, sometimes people are offended when they're edited. But let me tell you, I was edited severely, and to this day, I've come to like it. You have the dialectic, and you decide what you want to stand up for, sometimes the editor is wrong. Me too, as an editor. Sometimes the editor is wrong, and sometimes the editor is seeing something you're maybe too close to see. And I rewrote the book, and she still didn't understand it. I was like ripping my hair out. And this book was rewritten. It was written 3 times before she got it. And in hindsight, that's what makes this book good. Because
Right.
if Holly could understand it,
Right.
everybody can understand it.
Right. Because you were forced to write to not your audience. You were forced to write to somebody who would be picking this up
Yeah.
as a fresh book, and they had to understand it. And I think that is, I think that's one of those like good turnouts to something very frustrating.
No, the last version, and the version that is, the end version, I was rating it for her because it was just like, I was infuriated, but I was writing it for her. And I think it was good,
I
in the
think the
long
end
run.
result is good. Yes, I think
Yeah.
because it's accessible,
Yeah.
even to her.
Yeah, no, she got it.
Christy Fouts wants to know. Do you have a favorite pagan author or book? That's a hard question.
I don't know if I
Oh
have
my
one
God.
favorite. I don't have one favorite of anything. I don't have a favorite food. I don't have a favorite color. I like, I like variety. I describe myself as spiritually promiscuous, but I really like. There is a book. It was originally in German, but it's been translated into English. It's called Witchcraft Medicine, and it's mainly herbs, and I love that book. It's mainly an herbal, but very much from the aspect of witches as healers, and it's beautiful. It's got glossy paper and a lot of photos, and maybe someday I will have a book like that because I love beautiful books,
Oh,
and they're so expensive to produce. But
right.
I love that book. Um, I have a lot of authors. I love working with Amy Blackthorne. Amy Blackthorne is wonderful, and her books. I think we're working on the new one right now, and it's great. And I love Harold Roth. The first book I brought to Wiser Books was The Witching Herbs,
Really?
because yeah, because I had been talking to Harold for about 10 years, and he had been telling me about this book. And I had a friend who was an acquisitions editor before me at Wiser. And, I would say, oh, you should look at this or you should look at that. And I would always tell him, oh, you should check out this Harold Roth. He's writing something that's going to be amazing. Because even Harold's old website was so well written and so beautiful. I mean, Harold used to own Alchemy Works, which
Yeah.
is it's still in business,
Mhm.
with another like an incredible person. But it was so beautifully written, and I just loved. I would call him. I would order from Alchemy Works, and I would call up to place my order, and talk to Harold for like hours. And so I knew about this book, and then when I got the job at Wiser, I said to myself, well, I should take my own advice. And I I
This is
called
what his
Harold.
alchemy works. This is his Orus. What is it? Alkylate of Orus. It's one of his. I don't know if you can see the alchemy works, but yeah, I love. His stuff is, it's gold to me.
Yeah, it
Go
is.
on. Sorry.
It's truly gold. So I called him up. I said, "You still have that book?" And he did. And so that was the first book I ever worked on.
Well, thank you for bringing that forward because I wouldn't have known about him otherwise, and I absolutely love him.
But I mean, he was like me in that he had been working on this for years. And I mean, if I did not have a contract, I don't know that I would ever finish anything either. So, for the person who, you know, eh, deadline, if you don't have a deadline, it's and a real deadline. 5,000, I am a very prompt person. I'm a very punctual person. The first time I was late for anything, barring an emergency, was Encyclopedia of 5,000 Spells, because that was supposed to be a 450-page book. And then, I started writing the intro and I was 100 pages in and I realized, oh, it's like over 1,000 pages.
It's a lot of pages.
Both versions are identical other than the word element in the cover. Like even the pages are identical. but the page numbers. But I
1108.
was late. I was late, and I had a deadline, and I knew when the deadline was, and I thought they were going to cancel it, and I was never going to write again, and I was going to have to go back to selling makeup in the mall, and I don't know, they would
Go
want
back
the
to
money.
selling makeup in the mall.
I did. I worked for Origins.
I love it that you're like, well, back to that old day job.
I'm an aromatherapist, which was something when I got my certification in California, but then I was in New Jersey, and it means, I don't know, air freshener in New Jersey. The only thing it was useful for was if you show me a jar of skin cream, I can tell you why the ingredients are there because I
Mhm.
recognize, I know the Latin names of plants. And so they hired me. So I just thought, oh my God, I'm gonna end up with like doing that, and I'm gonna be so sad. And they're gonna want the money back. And I mean, not that they paid me that much, but they're gonna want the money back. But I didn't have it because it was gone.
Right.
So
That's what
it
advance
was
is for. It's for spending while
oh
you're writing the book.
right. Well, yeah. It was it was harrowing. It was harrowing. Um, but it was worth it. So, I if you have a book in your head, you should write it.
Uh, Jean wants to know what book is missing from modern pagan and witchcraft literature, and where do you see a growing gap or need? That's a fantastic question.
That is a fantastic question, and
Hmm.
I probably should turn that back to you because I am immersed in books, and I don't always see what's missing. I see, if anything, the glut. Um, well, I mean,
Okay.
we need more deep and authentic books rather than superficial books. But I mean that's always. I mean that's going back to when I was working on the original edition of Pure Magic. I mean, that's always, it's hard to dig deep because you expose yourself, and you expose yourself in ways that you know, are not always safe, or people are judgy.
Here we
Yeah.
go. Jonda's saving my butt here because I can't. I'm like, I don't know. Jonda says I would like to see a pagan parenting book or paganism and special needs, something of this
Yeah,
nature.
that's a really good idea.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
I will tell the management advisor you said that. If
Yeah.
anybody, if you want to send me, if people want to send me messages on what they think we should be publishing, I'm grateful to have it
Where
because
can
a lot of
people reach you?
publishing, well, publishing is all gambling. It takes a while to go from the manuscript in your head to, even after you get a contract, to the actual book in hand, and you're gambling that people will want it,
Hmm.
and you're gambling that it will find an audience. And that there will be no unforeseen circumstances. I knew someone who was a successful. I know someone who was a successful author, and her next book was scheduled to be published on September 10th, 2001, and she had all this publicity lined up. But by the next day, no one wanted to talk to an author. There, September 11th.
Oh,
Yeah, her book was good. There are a lot of
oh my
reasons
God.
why. Yeah, so you have a publication date, and you hope that there isn't. I
Uh,
mean, for many reasons, not
something
not just
terrible.
because of the book,
Right,
but
right, right.
I mean, so, but there are all these unforeseen circumstances that will prevent a book from finding its audience. So it's all gambling. It's all, find, hoping that you are writing the right thing by the right author, and that it is something that audiences will embrace. It's tough.
Uh, Jean says, I feel like I see too much intro or beginner stuff and not enough
Yeah,
intermediate or
but
advanced stuff.
there's a reason for that. I mean, you're right. There's a reason for that, and the reason is that when you sell an advanced book, the audience is more limited, and
White.
people buy the book, and then they don't because you can't say beginners don't buy this book. And
Jason Miller actually says in the first chapter, this should not be your first book on magic. It's like
yes,
big,
but somebody may already have bought the book by the time they read that.
right, right.
They may have purchased it and gone home, and then, and I
So
mean, there are books. There are books that are hard to read, and maybe you're not going to read them all at once. But the problem is that people get very critical. I didn't understand it, so it isn't any good. It's
right.
not, well, I'm a beginner and I didn't understand it and maybe I should save it. But that said, I am working on some books that are right now that are not beginners books. I am working on the next Rachel Pollack book, A Walk
Right.
Through the Forest of Souls, and
Oh,
that is an amazing book, and it is not a Tarot 101. It doesn't go card by card.
I'm
There
so
is a
excited.
history and analysis of tarot, but I mean, there's quantum physics in that book. It's an
Amazing.
amazing, it's a brilliant book, but it is
When is that
not.
coming out?
I think in the fall.
Okay, so not that long.
No, I mean, we're working, it's a heavily illustrated book and we're working on getting the illustrations. It's going to be beautiful. So that's coming out, I think, in the fall. I am working on the next book by Cindy Brandon right now. I just finished editing that book. Her previous book was Entering Hecate's Garden. The
Hmm.
new one is going to be Entering Hecate's Cave. And
Ah,
a lot, it's shadow work and depth psychology, and it's not a goddess 101, and it's not a mythology 101. It assumes that the reader has some knowledge. But so, I- we're doing our best with that. I mean, but I know you're right. You are 100% right. But then there's always somebody complaining that they don't understand something.
so it's almost like having the intermediate or even advanced stuff almost has a problem built into it, because how
Well,
do you, unless you put on the cover levels, right? Like you must be a level 4 witch to understand this, which then who's the levels, right? What does that make sense to anybody? And then they're
well,
not going to know, does my education that I have so far, is it going to work with this? Or, because then you're kind of, but as witches, we piece these pieces together, right? We puzzle it together and we figure it out. So
yeah.
and there are things out there now that, like you said, they're hard to read. Like there's some stuff
They're
out there that's
challenging to read, but
really,
they're worth it.
yeah.
They're worth it. I mean, that Cindy Brandon book, that Rachel Pollack book, they are brilliant books. And maybe you have to kind of bite off a little bit at a time and read it and, digest it and then bite off another piece. I mean, I think that Rachel Pollack book, I expect to read that. I mean, I've already read it several times and I look forward to reading it again.
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
What's the name of the Rachel Pollack book again?
A Walk Through the Forest of Souls.
And it's a tarot book.
It is a tarot book, but it is an advanced tarot book.
I'm so excited about this.
It's an advanced tarot book. I mean, it is a tarot book because if you're not interested in tarot, it's not the book for you. But
Right.
it literally has some quantum physics in there. It's got Kabbalah, it's got the I Ching, it's got so much. She is also a genius, and it is really it is a magnificent book.
I feel like 78 Degrees of Wisdom is the perfect book to round out an education
Yeah,
in beginning tarot. Like if
yeah.
you have been researching it, if you've been looking into it, if you've got a feeling, you've got an inkling, it really just lines it all up and knocks it down as far as getting you to fully visualize and understand the basic current of the tarot. So this next book is
This is what
incredibly
you read
exciting
next.
for me.
This
Yes,
is really what you would read next. If
and I
if
love it.
you have like gotten what you need out of 78 Degrees of Wisdom, then this is what you would read next.
I'm excited. Sonia has a question. Curious, are there any books that talk about paganism and neurodiversity? I'm assuming that's what that is right there. Random aside, I'm curious about the correlation between those of us who are neurodiverse being more drawn to pagan practice, spiritual diversity in general.
I don't know that there is, but Sonia, if you can see that book, you should write it. I would want to read that book. I think there is an audience for that book.
Whoa, yeah,
I mean, that's very profound.
um, yeah,
I do,
that's funny.
I'm not saying that there isn't because maybe another publisher has something, or maybe someone has self-published it,
I
but
actually wanted to go looking for like an ADHD paganism sort of slant book, as in like how to deal with our issues and then
yeah,
practice.
I think that's a great topic, and
Fuck yeah.
I'm if someone wants to send me a proposal, I would love to see that.
Get to work, writers. On your mark. I'm just kidding. Seriously, seriously, because I was listening to a podcast on ADHD the other day and thinking about, when you think about your interests and also your situations and sometimes putting those things together, and I was like, oh, I wonder if there is a book out there on that. And so yeah, and there's lots of different you know neurodiversities that we could
Sure.
be talking about, but
And I'm sure
in
there,
general.
there shouldn't be one book, there should be many books.
Yes,
There should be many books. That's
everybody send in a thing.
yeah, there should be many books because I think that it's such a profound topic that different people will bring different things to it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the connection, Jean says the connection between psychology and
I
witchcraft
agree.
practices is so interesting. I
I
agree
don't know
too.
if you've read the Book of Lilith by I think the author's name is Barbara Black Koltov,
Mhm.
Koltuv, and that's not a new book. That's a book
No,
I read that in the late 80s, but the author is a Jungian psychologist, and
I have
it
it
is
somewhere.
super interesting. It's a little book, it's not a big book.
It is. It's a little, yeah, it's a little, and it's got like her with a snake on the cover.
Yeah,
But I know it. I have it. It might be in my library at work. Otherwise, I would show you guys.
yeah,
Um,
that's a great book,
but it
and,
is a good. We carry it. We still carry copies. It's fucking amazing.
yeah, no, it's a great book. No, it's in print. I mean,
Yeah,
even,
yeah.
and I think Cindy used to be a professor of psychology, and that her book it is about doing your shadow work and
Hmm.
entering the cave and healing and coming out of the cave, the journey to wholeness.
Hmm.
And it's super interesting. Very much for witches. Very much for witches and pagans.
Um, yeah, yeah. Interesting. Doing shadow work specifically for
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
spirituality.
Yeah, and you don't have to, even though Hecate is the primary, it's in the title and she's the primary focus, you almost don't need to know, you don't need to be a devotee. The book is the book takes you on a journey,
Hmm.
and it sort of explains whatever you need. But it is a book with a lot, I mean, it's a substantial book that makes you think. So it's not in the way that beginners books, sometimes they give you little bite-sized pieces and you don't have to, they're easy to consume. And this is a book that you really have to spend time with. But it's a really good book.
And we're talking about the new Cindy Brandon book, the
Yeah.
Entering Hecate's Cave.
I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of what we're doing right now are not beginner's book. Harold Roth's next book, it's very different from the Witching Herbs. Magic of the Sword of Moses.
Hmm.
It takes, I want to say 10th century, but it might be older, Hebrew manuscript, a Jewish manuscript, pre-Kabbalah. And the only other English translation, the old English translation of the book, it reminds me a little bit of Abramelin,
Hmm.
which is, similar genre. The previous English translation removed the spells and the magical ritual. I mean, I guess so you couldn't do it. But Harold's book is focused on the spells and the ritual, and it is a deep book and very much. But Harold is such a good writer that I think it is so much, for people who would like to do the Upper Milan ritual. In a lot of ways, this is more accessible.
Uh-huh.
It is more accessible, and he has written it in a way that is very usable and viable. I want to say that book will be out in August.
Oh,
But that's not for somebody who's never cast a spell before necessarily. Like
right.
it'll just go over your head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there are things coming out that
Yeah.
are sort of
I mean,
filling that gap.
I can speak about the books that I work on because I I edit probably maybe 16 books a year.
Hmm.
And I know those books as well as I know my own. Like I
Right.
read every word and talk with the author, so I know them. So I it is easy for me to discuss those books, but there may be a lot of other books out there that I don't know.
There are so many books coming out every month. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Every publisher now has a spiritual section.
Well, I find this to be sort of a title thing, like because I'm old, because every 20 years, um, witchcraft has like the tide comes in.
Hmm.
Everybody's fascinated by witchcraft. Everybody wants to learn about witchcraft. We all want to be a witch. We all want to and you'll see all the stores are selling things, the witch makeup and the witch clothing and the witch shoes and you know, witch everything. And then it lasts for a while and I think more and more people with every wave, more and more people become committed to the practice. But eventually, I think the people who really are not sincere or not really enthralled by it,
Hmm.
they move on to something else.
Sure. The interest
So,
fades.
yeah, and I think publishing reflects that. And so we're having a bit of in the last couple of years we're having a wave and I'd like to think it'll continue forever. Um that would be great. The witch world that I would be good with that.
It's
But
growing. It is growing,
yes,
and the foundation, the solid foundation, the core gets stronger with every, like you said, with every wave we get, the foundation gets a little stronger, and
but
we get a little wiser, and
yes.
like.
Um but I think that the more superficial material will not continue to be published
Correct, because it
because
will fall by because
it'll fall
it didn't
by.
do
Right,
what it was
right,
supposed to do. It won't hold
right,
up. People won't be saying, "Oh, this was the book that did it for me."
right.
They'll be like, "Oh, no, I read that book. It was I sold it." Or
Have you
whatever.
have you talked to Nancy Hendrickson?
No.
Oh, you should talk to Nancy. Nancy Hendrickson is great. Nancy Hendrickson wrote a book called Ancestral Tarot that we published last year, and it had it brought a whole new use to tarot cards, which is you don't even have to be a card reader, but you just need a deck of cards and you can use it to do ancestor work. And it is
Really? With just a
the
like a playing deck or a
tarot
tarot
deck.
deck?
Yeah, tarot deck. Tarot
Okay.
deck. But
Okay.
she's doing her new deck. She has a new book coming out now, Ancestral Grimoire, in which it's tarot, but it is also oracles, and she works with a pendulum, and she does other things. And you don't necessarily even have to be that skilled at the tools, but she teaches you how to work with your ancestors, how to heal ancestral relationships, how to uncover ancestors that maybe you didn't know about, develop relationships with them. Uh, those are really, really interesting books. And I have some other books that are not beginners books and I think are challenging, but it is too early to talk about them. They're too
No,
early in the stage because
fair enough.
and those of you who want to be authors, people steal. You have to be careful. If you have a really good idea for a book, don't talk about it too much. Write it. Write it. Because, for example, for me, I don't tell people about my books until they're in the author's catalog, until they're in the publisher's catalog, because I'm slow. I am methodical and I'm slow and I am meticulous and I check everything and it takes me a long time. But somebody who is not that meticulous and not that careful, they can take an idea and just run with it and do it faster than I can do it. So if you have something and it's important to you, then treat it like a treasure, protect it.
That's good advice. That's very good advice. Keep that shit close to your chest.
Yeah, because there are a lot of unethical people out there. There are a
Yeah,
lot of people who go, "Wow, that's a great idea. Let me write it."
right. Yeah, and that sucks when it gets stolen from
Don't put
you.
it on your social media where you don't know who's seeing it.
Oh heck no. That's for sure. Yeah, definitely don't go being like, I got an idea. Here's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, let me outline the book.
Let me give you the
I
points.
have seen people do stuff like that. Here, what do you think? They ask, like, I don't know, 4,000 people. You, who might be showing 4,000 more people. You don't know who's looking at
Right.
these posts.
Yeah,
So
that's dangerous.
protect your intellectual property.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Jonda says, I will say I believe this wave is fueled by the reach of social media. And once it's online, it's forever.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. I think that whole social media has just really changed the witchcraft world. Um, in some ways that are very positive, some ways maybe not so positive. But
Oh, for sure. I mean,
yeah,
with growth comes both, right? Like you
look,
can't.
we're speaking. I'm speaking to you from my home, and that's a wonderful thing. I've met so many wonderful people online that I would never have an opportunity to meet otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
I teach at the Magical Women's Conference. And I take their classes because they are amazing, and they're in London. I mean, how could I do that?
Right.
The money and the time. I mean, who's got it? But I mean, some people might have it, but um, and that ability for occultists and witches to connect with each other and learn from each other, that is an amazing thing. But also, I think, I don't know, there are people who seem to live just to rip each other apart, and that's not a nice thing.
No, and it's sad. But you know
Well,
that those people do it because they're hurt in some way, you know.
yeah, of course. I mean, in my experience, and we live in a scary time, and people are frustrated and angry.
Hmm.
There's a ton of reasons, but I remember, you know, as somebody who has been in abusive relationships and was bullied, I find that I have found the witchcraft world in general to be very supportive. People support each other and are kind to each other and help each other. And so
Hmm.
I do find it distressing when I see the opposite.
In every community, you're going to have some bad things happen.
Of
That's
course,
just the way that it is, and
it's just the way that it is. Yeah.
it's sad. One of the things I actually think that book-wise, to go back to the topic of what we need, one of the problematic things is that there's not that many books on Norse magic. I know that's weird, but I even searched the Wiser stuff, and I couldn't find that many. And because of some of the Norse associations, I think that people are shying away from it and writing more about it. The Asatru Folk Assembly, right, has really cast a bad look on pagans in general because they're a bunch of dickwads who are racist and horrible, and I can't stand them.
Horrible.
And I hate that they are part of the community. And it sucks because the community is magic users. The community is magical people, and they unfortunately also get to have that flag, right? And but
Well, the publishing of Norse material has historically been spiritual and runes. The focus was very much on runes. And if people want to learn runes, I'm a huge fan of Diana Paxson, and I've
mhm,
been very
mhm,
privileged to work with her. And she is the opposite of those people. She is
right.
a
And
righteous, ethical person, and can read you can buy a book and not worry about where your money is going. But she has a book called I mean, I've taken her rune classes in person. Taking Up the Runes.
okay,
That's a great book. There's a new Weiser Classic edition of that. The
beautiful.
Yeah, Taking Up the Runes. I don't know of a book that is oriented on magic with runes in the background. It's always runes in the foreground. And maybe that exists, but I haven't seen it. And I mean, that would be an interesting thing to read. I mean, I, I
And
would read
that's
that.
right. And I try to get them because we get a lot of people who ask about Norse
You
specific
know,
stuff.
there's a
I show.
museum of there's a museum of sorcery in Iceland. Do you know them?
No.
They have some
Wait, are they the ones who
publications.
had the sex pants things? Yes. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I've never been there. I've never been there. I mean, one day I would like to go. Um, you know, as I said, I love a witchcraft museum. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I would love to go. Yes, that is the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know what they've got because their focus, I think, is very much on magic and sorcery,
Mhm.
as as opposed to exclusively runes.
Yeah. So when people come in and they ask about stuff, I show them runes. I explain to them that runes are a part of it and that these books, but
Yeah,
they don't want that. They want something that says Norse something on the cover. Norse Secrets of Magic or something like this is what people want. So, but again, I think that it's a weird spot. And so people aren't doing it so much. Sonia, there's an interest in Norse flavored paganism. Well, the whole race's asshat groups tried to co-opt that
yeah.
image.
No,
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And you know, people ask like, how do you vet authors? But that's a very difficult thing. I mean, I- if it's not obvious, if they're not, I mean, if they're posting on social media and you can see who they are, if they're open about it, but
Mm-hmm.
if they're, you know, secret racists, it, it's very hard to tell sometimes. Huh.
Uh,
So, and that's a sort of a secretive community anyway. So
yeah. Yeah.
it's very difficult. That's a very difficult, because I think so many of the authors in that field are unfortunately associated with some not so savory groups.
right. Sex pants. Sex pants in the Sorcery Museum. Sonia
Necro
says
trousers.
necro trousers. Thank you. Thank
Yeah, yeah.
you. So yeah, for those of you who don't know, you can look it up. You can look up necro trousers. You're welcome. It's it's a pair of skin
I
pants.
don't know.
There we go. Emily says apparently there's a well-documented Icelandic farting spell. It's a hex that makes you fart and belch to death. It's documented in one of their witch trials.
Wow.
Wow. Oh, okay. So necro trousers are supposed to make the wearer very wealthy, but at what cost, you guys? But at what cost? Oh, geez. Okay, so I want to wrap up the show a little bit, but before we do, I want to talk about the class that's coming up. So the class is this Sunday. It's at 6:30 p.m. Eastern.
So.
I think so too.
That's all I'm told.
I'm gonna post a little link here so that you guys
And
can easily find it.
I do spellcasting classes. I mean, it is the class that I'm asked for the most, but and there is some basic information I give because there are and some of the stuff that's not in the books, mine or anybody else's, because it's just the stuff that it is assumed that people know, but they don't. But I do a lot of Q&A, and so I am happy to essentially I mean, none of my classes are I'm not talking with notes now, I don't talk it with notes of my class, and I if you have questions, I will do my best to, you know, I'm flexible enough, we can turn it to however you want it to be or whatever you need to know. So,
So
that's
come
the
to the
thing.
class with questions. Come
Yeah,
looking for
and if you wanna kick it up, you wanna kick it up a notch, you've got the more advanced classes, bring them. This is a good place.
bring it to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can sign up for the class. There are tickets still available. Oh right, it's online, so it's pretty much there's all the tickets available. Yeah, so there's no limit on those. I'm getting a lot of
I
in
work a
Maureen.
lot. I work a lot. I work like 24/7, and, so, you know, I have been living like a recluse for years, and everybody else is just living like me now.
You're like, this is perfect for me. This is great.
No, this is just how I live. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
And also you had said that if people want to reach out to you, where can they find you? Where can they send you stuff?
Oh, my website, I'm like a mess. My website is not necessarily that operational right now. Um, my emails, I'm like people, the emails come in like by the bag full, and I'm so far behind. But I am on Twitter, and I am on Instagram, and I am on Facebook, and um, you can reach me there. I warn you that sometimes I am really slow, and I apologize. I'm not ignoring anyone. Sometimes I am just slow because sometimes I do like to sleep. Um,
I mean, with the regular workload that you have,
yeah.
right? And then to answer emails on top of that, and then to follow up and
I
stuff,
read cards too. I'm a card
it's
reader.
there's not a lot of time. And if you get
I don't do
emails
a lot of card reading
cycle,
anymore. I mean, it's not my, I used to do more. I used to be a psychic. I used to be a psychic friend. Um,
that's right, I forgot.
Yeah, no. I worked the Dionne Warwick line for a while. I worked, I think, a California line for a while.
That's so
Yeah,
fantastic.
no. I mean, I mean, that was like my boot camp. I read cards every night. Starting at 10. I did the graveyard shift. I was supposed to get off at 1 in the morning, but I was the only one working. So if it was busy, like sometimes I would just stay up all night because the
So
calls
now we
were coming
see
in.
where that either started or came in really
Oh
handy.
no. I as a very young person, I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, where he talks about how he trained himself to sleep only 4 hours a night. And I thought, wow, that's great.
Ah,
I wasn't thinking. I wasn't thinking.
I regret this decision. Oh, okay. So I want to thank you for being here with us tonight,
Thank
and I
you.
want to
Thank you
thank
for having me. It's always fun,
everything.
Tiffany.
It's
And we're going to
always
have fun on
fun.
Sunday.
And Sunday, guys, sign up for the class. It's going to be
Yeah, we'll
amazing.
have fun.
You get to hang out with us. We'll both be there.
Overworked, but fun.
Overworked, same. Overworked, but fun. I'm here for the fun. Thank you all guys all for coming. And I'll see you guys soon. I don't know when the next show is actually because that's how insanely busy I am right now.
Tiffany, now you're living in my world.
I know there's one in August, but I feel like there's one before that. But
Uh,
anyway, all right. I love you all. Say goodnight to Judika. Say goodnight to the peoples. Bye, guys.